Hi, Moms Making Six Figures. Today, I get the privilege of interviewing Dr. Maureen Petersen. I think you are going to learn a lot about resilience and how, as moms, we handle things that then directly impact our children, which is not a surprise, but this is going to be a little bit of a different spin on it, so enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Moms Making Six Figures podcast, where it's all about real women, real stories, real inspiration. And now your host and creator of Moms Making Six Figures, Heidi Bartolotta.
Hi, Moms Making Six Figures. I'm excited to say that I have a sponsor for this episode. It's 1000springsmill.com, and it's 1000. And I'm thrilled that they have decided to sponsor the episode because I've been shopping with them for a long time. They are non-GMO, they are organic, and they're regenerative farmers, so they love the land and they take care of the land, and I feel like that takes care of my family. I'm very specific about the things that I bring into my home, and they have some amazing products. So check out their website and definitely sign up for their newsletter because they have some incredible recipes that they email out. Again, that's 1000springsmill.com. Maureen, thank you for doing this. I should say Dr. Maureen. How do you want me to refer to you? I feel weird calling you Dr. Maureen, but it's really what you are. So, and let's start with that. Will you just do an introduction of your professional background? So talk a little bit about your medical journey.
Yeah, sure. I went to medical school to become a pediatrician, not become a doctor.
Yeah.
And had wanted to become a pediatrician since the time I was little. I went to internship and residency in pediatrics. I practiced general pediatrics for several years, and then subspecialized in pediatric allergy immunology. Through my career in the military, I had the honor of holding some leadership positions where I got to teach interns, residents, fellows, medical students, so really made a career out of graduate medical education, and I'm very grateful for the Army for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah. So you knew that you wanted to be a doctor from the time that you were young. Did you ever question that?
Oh, I questioned it many times. Trying to get into medical school was hard because you had to do well in school, and medical school was hard, and I questioned whether this was really something I wanted to put a lot of effort into, but that it goes back to kind of what is your purpose in life, right? And I knew from the time I was little that I really wanted to help people, and I loved science and knew that blending those two things was really my purpose. Mm-hmm. And following my purpose meant hard work. Yeah. So it was not giving up during those times when I was questioning, was this the right thing for me?
So let's dive into motherhood, because you have had a very challenging situation with motherhood.
Yeah.
And it really played into some of what you decided to do in medicine. So will you talk about your daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also, from the time I was little, I wanted to be a mom, and I was very fortunate, had 3 kids throughout my life. When my second child was 6 months old, I was a pediatric resident, and she was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a type of pediatric cancer. My world came crashing down at that time because I knew what that meant because of patients I had taken care of with the same diagnosis. I went to a very kind of dark place during that time. Things got better with time, and then fast forward 12 years later, I got to be the physician to diagnose her with type 1 diabetes. And once again, I felt like this weight of the world was replaced on my shoulders. I really wanted to make sure I didn't go back to that dark place that I had been in years earlier. So really was proactive about taking care of my own mental health and emotional health. I then, through taking care of myself, learned more about coaching and the benefits of coaching. Later, when I got a leadership position, I needed to hone mentorship skills. And I became a certified life coach to really help with mentorship. I realized quickly how important those skills were in taking care of patients in clinic, and saw the benefits of really being able to help not only the patient in front of me, but the entire family, and realizing that taking care of the family really helps taking care of a disease. So I became a certified life coach, now help moms who have kids who have type 1 diabetes, because I've been there and done that, and life is chaotic anytime you have a child with a chronic illness.
Let's go back to, so when your daughter was first diagnosed with her first diagnosis, and you said you went to a dark place, I think it's interesting to hear that from a physician that actually truly understands what's happening and also knows what the steps are, right? So I imagine a mother that has a child that has that diagnosis, and they don't have your training, they don't have your knowledge base, I think you describing that you went to a dark place is really interesting for me. Will you talk about that? Because you actually understood it and went there. Was it because you understood what the potential outcome could be? Why did it take you down so much?
Yeah. So I think, it was the reason for me going to the dark place was because my brain was off to the races, thinking about all the possibilities that could go wrong with her going through surgery and chemo and the whole works. I felt like, because I always wanted to be a mom, that this was life as a mom. And this was the plate I was served, and I needed to make sure that I cleaned my plate. And it was not realizing at the time that life could really be different, meaning that, yes, she was going to still have her diagnosis. She was still going to go through all of the treatments and the surgery and the chemo and the whole works, but I would be able to do that, but still have joy and still have purpose for what I was doing with my own life, and still be able to have hobbies. And it didn't mean that my life ended because it got more complicated. So that's kind of where the dark place came from. And it was, looking back, it was really, I functioned like a zombie. That, of course, I was exhausted because of sleepless nights, but I was letting fear and worry and overwhelm all lead my life. I wasn't leading from this place of compassion and love. Of course, I had it for my daughter, but that's not where I was leading from.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense to me. And also going into yet her next diagnoses and how you took control of it differently. And I think that for me, and hearing your story, and it's such a powerful thing for women to hear that whatever the situation, whether it's a diagnosis for their child, and I think when it's your child, it's different and more painful almost than if it's one for yourself. But even if it's you or a spouse, you can control it and you can manage it differently. And I think that that's really where I watch you light up when you talk about helping families to see that this is something that you can handle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So talk about that.
Yeah.
That's definitely, and I know you're very active, you still practice, but that's really where your passion lies. So.
Yeah. And, like I said, I think my purpose from a very young age was like helping people. And I have realized through life that there are many different ways of helping people. Yeah. And using what we've experienced in life and really turning it into something good is really how we fulfill what our purpose truly is. Our lives are always going to be filled with challenges, always. And
really? Yeah, really?
Unfortunately, this is the way life is.
My life isn't going to be perfect.
Not going to be perfect. But, those challenges, like, not only do you get the opportunity to learn from them, but they also allow you to, like, really appreciate when life isn't challenging. And so it gives you this kind of comparison of life, and you can use the challenges to your advantage and continue to grow and have even more beautiful experiences later down the line. But it's really making a conscious decision, an intentional decision of how are you going to respond to that challenge? Are you going to allow it to consume you and have you turn into the zombie that I was years ago when my daughter was sick? Or are you going to take that challenge and really make use of it and allow others to learn and grow from your own growth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something that was very interesting to me that I had never thought about until you said this with the type 1 diabetes is that there is a difference in not only the child but in the family unit and the way that they handle it based on the age of diagnosis. And I had not thought about the mental implications of that until you said that to me.
Yeah.
So will you describe that a little bit? I just find it very interesting, and there's some families out there that I'm sure that this will touch. So
yeah. So, any chronic illness, whether it be type 1 diabetes or something else that is a long-term diagnosis for a kid, is going to impact not only that child, but the entire family unit, because the parents are, of course, like managing all the day-to-day nuances of the diagnosis and treatment, but they're also dealing with their own emotion, and they need to learn how to advocate for their child. And that takes courage and takes emotion to be able to do. But the chronic illness also impacts siblings. When you're focused on one child, sometimes siblings get left behind. And the siblings can also feel very guilty that it's not them who is sick. They can feel very jealous of the child who has the chronic illness, right? Mm-hmm. But, the other piece that to your question was, when a child is diagnosed with a chronic illness, that if they get diagnosed really young, they're going to grow up and not really know how life is different. And when a child is diagnosed in adolescence, it becomes a big deal because they have seen life without the disease. And, type 1 diabetes, like, there's no cure for it. So it's not going away. So becomes this, like, life before and then life after. And that child needs to learn how to build resilience and advocate for themselves, because it's not going away. The way to really do that is watch their parent do it correctly and have a parent who is resilient and a great advocate. So, it becomes this snowball effect where if you impact a mom or impact a dad, you're really taking care of the disease because you're impacting the child through kind of a ripple effect.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it even applies. I shared this with you yesterday. I've just recently been diagnosed with something, and having that happen so much later in life, there is I think it could apply to any of us
Yes.
that have a diagnosis where it's like, oh, okay, life is different now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the same mental skill, the same type of skill set that you work with families on, I think apply to people in general, really.
Well, and, I think about all of these moms that I've worked with whose kids have type 1 diabetes, and there's this grieving process that they go through where they think, life is over because their kid now has this diagnosis. And they go through, all of the different stages of grieving. But it's really helping them understand that their life isn't over because of their child's diagnosis, that they can still have all the things and a child who they have to help take care of and teach and all of this stuff, that life's not over. You can still do great things and have an incredible child with diabetes being part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a quote, I don't remember where I heard it, but that one situation isn't good or bad, it just is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so it's all about how we mentally adjust. And it can still be beautiful. It's not like one is better, it's just a different path.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Very true in something like this.
Yes.
Yeah. So your profession, you obviously, it's so interesting to me listening to you because I could tell just in our extended conversation how much passion you have around helping people, but also really education. You're very, very focused on education. So if I were to ask you, this situation that happened in your life with your family, do you think that you are a completely different person because of it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Completely different.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. Yeah. That, I know because of all of this, like I'm a better mom, I'm a better doctor, I'm a better teacher, all because of this. And again, it becomes this kind of view of life that it's really challenges are gifts that we're given to be able to grow and learn from. And they're not there to cause us a massive hurdle and torture us. They're there to really
It feels like it sometimes.
It does. When you are in the moment, 100%, it feels like it is there for torture. But when you continue to tell yourself that, no, it's there for my growth, I just don't see how this is helping me grow right now. When you continue to tell yourself that, it becomes practice, and it's then part of your subconscious where then you really believe it, and it becomes easier to see in a shorter time frame. So it's like anything, picking up an instrument for the first time. You're not going to be great at it. It takes practice. Same thing with any sort of belief that you're trying to acquire. It's going to take practice thinking about it, but reflection on those challenges And, opportunities like this, when I'm able to pause to say, like, no, that really did help me become a better mom and a better doctor, that it helps me in the long term with other challenges that I will face in my life.
Yeah. So good. So any questions that I didn't ask you? You kind of know generally the demographic of the podcast. So anything that you think would be a great ending piece of wisdom for the women that are listening in?
Goodness gracious.
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
I know. I don't know. No questions come to mind right now.
Yeah. How about if we wrap up with this? This is going to be an odd one for you, but I ask all of my guests. So obviously, choosing the profession that you did, you knew you would make six figures at some point. It was just a matter of when you started practicing. But did it feel differently? Do you remember when it happened, when you hit six figures? Or was there any emotion around it for you?
There was emotion around it. And I would say the emotion came because, when I was a little kid thinking about becoming a doctor, I wasn't thinking about it from a financial standpoint. I was thinking about it from a standpoint of wanting to help people. Well, that path in medicine that I took through the military was a very kind of scripted out path where I had some choices in kind of what my path looked like, but certainly not tons of freedom for like left and right boundaries of what I could do with knowledge and experience. And so being able to like reach that kind of financial milestone was huge because it made me realize like I'm not going to be in the military forever, and that there is going to be a time where I have a choice of what I can do and how much more I can help people by having the finances to be able to do it.
The resources.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I
No,
really
thank you for having me. This has been an awesome conversation. It's been lovely getting to know you. It really has.